Good morning, second graders. This is our lesson for Monday, March 30th, 2020. Today we're looking at lesson 2 of Unit 6. We're going to be comparing nonfiction and fiction texts, and then we're also going to be comparing letter sounds, looking at letter teams that have similar letters in them but make different sounds. On this slide, we see two different book covers. The first one is one that you should recognize from back at the beginning of the school year. We've got a picture of the Cat Bandit from Unit 1. Then on the right side, we've got a book cover of a story called Big Cats. The Cat Bandit is an example of a fictional story, and then Big Cats is an example of a nonfiction story. We're going to look at these two stories and think about how they're different and what makes fiction and nonfiction texts different. Okay, so we're looking at a T-chart. On one side we have fiction, where we'll talk about the Cat Bandit, and on the other side we have nonfiction, where we'll talk about big cats. Thinking back to the Cat Bandit, what can you tell me about that book and that story? What makes the Cat Bandit unique? You're not necessarily thinking about what happened in the story, just what do we know about that book and how it is written? Give you some time to think. Let's look at some ideas that I came up with. So we know that the Cat Bandit is a made-up story about a pet cat. This story comes from the author's imagination. The Cat Bandit's adventures are highly unlikely. That means that the things that happen to the Cat Bandit are things that probably wouldn't happen to a real cat in real life. We also know that the pictures in the Cat Bandit were drawn by an illustrator to match the events that were happening in the story. Next, let's think about the story Big Cats. We haven't read that before, but think about what you were able to see on the cover of that story and what you know about a nonfiction story about cats. Let's check out the ideas I came up with about the nonfiction story, Big Cats. So a nonfiction book like Big Cats, that would have no stories with invented characters, settings, or plots. Instead, it's just giving you information. This story is about real cats that actually exist in real life. It contains facts and information about cats. The pictures in a nonfiction text usually include actual photographs of real animals, real places, real people, and things. Keep watching. Let's look at some examples of some different types of nonfiction texts. The first type of text that we have are history books. Those tell about real events that happened in the past. We have some examples here on this slide. There's the amazing African American history, ancient Egypt, where you could read about pyramids and pharaohs, and then the reader that we're going to read in this unit about the War of 1812. So our reader for this unit is going to be our first and only nonfiction text in second grade ELA. So that's exciting. We're finally going to get to read about some real, true information. Another type of nonfiction text is a biography, A biography tells the true events about a person's life. On this slide we see some examples. There's a biography of Walt Disney and Sally Ride, who was the first woman in space, and Martin Luther King Jr. Another type of nonfiction text you could read is a science book. Science books tell you true facts about different things in science. For example, you could read this story, The Solar System, for kids. That tells you about the planets and space in our solar system. You could read a book called The Human Body. That would tell you about all those different systems that Ms. Mason is teaching you about right now. Or you could read a book, What's Chemistry All About? That's when you mix different chemicals. This is one we don't see too often anymore, but this one is called an atlas. And an atlas is a reference book that has maps of real places inside. So you can look at an atlas to learn about different parts of the world and maybe like what their climate is like, the weather. This example is showing what types of animals exist in different parts of the world. So it can tell you different things about different places. This nonfiction text is called a newspaper, eh? Have you ever seen a newspaper before? A newspaper tells you true current information. That means things that happen right now. So you've got an example on the left of the Columbus Dispatch. That tells you all about things that are happening in Columbus. Some of you might get that one delivered to your house. People in New York might read the New York Times. Newspapers have headlines that are telling you about real things that are happening in your community right now. It's pretty cool because today, instead of having to read the newspaper just on a paper that gets delivered on your doorstep, you can usually find newspaper articles online too. This nonfiction text some of us are pretty familiar with. This one is called a magazine, eh? A magazine includes articles about real people and events. So this one on the left is called Highlights. That's one I used to read when I was a kid, and I had all kinds of information for kids your age in elementary school, and it would have some fun activities that you could do in there too. This other one on the right is called Sports Illustrated for kids. That might be one that you would find really interesting if you really like sports, like football, baseball, or basketball. This is the last nonfiction example we'll look at today. This one isn't a book, but this one is called a website, eh? Some websites give us nonfiction or true information about anything that we're looking to learn about. So this is an example that I used to use called Pebble Go. And on this website, you can research about all kinds of different animals, learn all about what they look like, where they live, what they eat, and all kinds of fun facts about those animals. So typically, if we were in class, we'd be doing a fun scavenger hunt to look for different types of nonfiction texts around the room. Because we're not going to do that, we're actually going to skip activity page 2.1 that was included in your packet. I know some of us had questions about that activity page, so you don't have to worry about it. Go ahead and skip 2.1, and we're going to move on to talking about comparing letter sounds. Since we are in our last unit for the year, we have learned a whole bunch of different letter sounds and different letter teams, and all these different ways to make a lot of the same sounds. So we're going to be looking at some different words and comparing specific letters and letter teams in those words to see if they're making the same sound or a different sound. Take a look at this slide and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So looking at the top column, we have two different words. One of them starts with a T, one of them starts with an F. I'm going to read those words. I noticed that the PH is bold and red in one word, and then the F is bold and red in the other word. The bold letters and letter teams are the sounds that we're going to be comparing today. So let's get started. Looking at this first column, we've got trophy. The other word is funny. So I see the PH in trophy. That PH is saying then when I say that other word, funny, that F is saying I need to think to myself, are those sounds the same or different? PH, F. They sound the same. They look different, but they sound the same. So yes, thumbs up, those sounds are the same. For this activity today, I want to make sure that I'm trusting my ears and not my eyes. My eyes would tell me those sounds are different. My ears tell me they're the same. Listen to your ears. Let's look at the next ones. R, I, T, right. W, E, N, when. I'm looking for the WR sound. Right. What sound does WR make in right? R. WR says R. Then I want to look at the word when. What does the WH say in when? W. So I've got R and W. Do those sound the same or different? Show me what you think. Those sound different. Those are different sounds. Let's look at the next ones. Gr, a, f, graph. Gr, oo, p, group. I see a P in both of those. Let's think about what sound those letter teams and letters make. I see a PH is bold in the word graph. What sound does PH make in graph? The PH says f in graph. PH always says f. In the word group, what sound is the P making? The P says p, so I've got f and p. Those sound different. Thumbs down. Those sounds are different. Last example. N, I, k, o, nickel. N, a, t, not. We're looking at the N and the KN. In the word nickel, what sound does the N make? The N says N. What about in the word not? What sound does the KN make? So yes, those sounds are the same, even though they look like they would be different. Make sure you're trusting your ears. Let's look at our activity page 2.2. This is in your ELA work packet. Activity 2.2 looks just like this. It's called sound comparison. The question they're asking us at the top says, do the bolded letters stand for the same sound? Check yes or no. So this is like what we just practiced. If you hear those sounds are the same, thumbs up. Yes, they're the same. And you're going to check mark yes. If the sounds are different, no. You're going to mark no. Let's do the first two as an example, and then I'll let you get working. Number 1, we did this one already in our example. Trophy, trophy. Funny. Looking at the PH, what sound does the PH make in trophy? It says f. What sound does the F make in funny? It says f. Same or different? Same, so I'm going to check yes. Yes, they make the same sound. Let's try number 2. N, A, K. K, E, T, O. Kettle. Knock and kettle. Looking at the KN, what sound does the KN make in knock? The KN says N. What about in the word kettle? What sound does that bolded K make? K. So let's compare those sounds. N, K. Same or different? Different. I'm going to mark no. Go ahead and complete page 2.2. Make sure you press pause so that I don't keep talking. This is an optional activity that you can complete once you're done with 2.2. This is just a review of PH making the sound like we practiced on Friday. PH says, PH says. You're going to see that letter team in all of these words in the box at the top first part of 2.3. So your first job is going to be to read all those words in the box, remembering that PH says. Then you're going to read the clues. This is a crossword puzzle. We've practiced these a couple times before. They're meant to be fun and a fun way to review some new words. So for example, number 3, it says a bar. I'm going to look at all of these words and see which one makes sense in that blank. A bar dolphin? No. A bar alphabet? No. A bar graph? I've heard of a bar graph. Let's look at our crossword puzzle and see if that's the right number of letters. So it says that's 3 across. So I'm thinking graph, so I'm going to put G, R, A, P, H. I think I must be right. Then I'm going to make sure I crossed off number 3 because I know I'm done with that one. Then I would move on and I would keep trying to solve the puzzle with the rest of the clues. Go ahead and complete this for fun to practice your PH letter team. I will see you guys again tomorrow for lesson 3.